I am Heidi Benjaminson, your host of Confidence Coaching, a podcast for mothers of teenagers who want to feel less worry and more hope. Life isn't a spectator sport. Success comes to those who show up every day with a pocket full of courage, grit, and a little sparkle. I'm glad you're here. Hello, y'all. Welcome to episode 124, Supporting LGBTQ plus Teens, a conversation with Jenie Hunter. Thanks for being here and sharing this podcast with your friends, your sisters, your neighbors. Make sure you hit subscribe so you get a new episode each Wednesday. And did you know, for many episodes, I'm now uploading just a short video on YouTube where I give you extra examples and just to explain a little deeper on a topic that I go into in the podcast. So if you're a visual learner like me, you're going to like it. Go find my YouTube channel. It's my name. Hit subscribe. You can listen to the audio of each episode there too. And you can go back and see some of the old videos. They're only about 5 minutes or so. I also email out a link. So make sure you're on my email list. You can sign up at HeidiBenjaminson.com. Okay, today I'm sharing with you a conversation I recently had with another fantastic coach, Jenie Hunter. She and I met while doing advanced certification with Jody Moore. And as you're going to hear, Jenie is so warm and bubbly and positive. We hit it off right when we met. I've wanted to bring her on here for a while. I know that many of you need now, or you will need to hear from her on how to support your teens. Jenie specializes in family coaching and helping members of the LDS faith support their LGBTQ teens. She is passionate about creating a safer place in the church community for all of God's children. She has 1 son and 5 daughters and a wonderful husband. She lives in Florida. She runs a support community and podcast called Lift and Love. I'll have links to everything in the show notes. You definitely want to follow her and share her information with anyone that you know who needs her resources. She also loves the beach. So she and I, we know that we're soul sisters. Okay, here's our conversation. Jenie Hunter, I am so glad you are here on my podcast. Jenie and I met each other doing the advanced certification with Jody Moore. Has that been like a year and a half? How long ago was that?
It seems even longer. Maybe it was only a year and a half ago, but I am a huge Heidi fan. Like, you're like Navy. Like, I wish you guys could see the room because Navy is my signature color and I see it everywhere and she looks gorgeous in it. And we were like the only East Coast girls. Like,
I know we were the East Coast girls yes. I know. I loved that about our, that experience. It was so good. Yes. Us with our plantation shutters. Yes. Well, and I am just so glad this has taken a while to get you on my podcast, but I just know a lot of my listeners and clients will just benefit so much from hearing your expertise about your niche. Jenie, well, I'm going to have you introduce yourself, but I have a lot of questions about how you support LGBTQ families, the mothers, but first, Jenie, introduce yourself. We've already said you're East Coast, which means you're amazing. Number one, tell us about yourself. Tell us about your family and like how you came into life coaching.
Love it. I am live in Tampa, and I have 6 kids. I have a boy, Nicholas, who is 24, and then I have 5 girls, ranging from 22 to 12. And so next year I'll have 5 in college. So it'll be 5. Yes. Oh, but, and I've been married to John, my husband, for 31 years. We met out at BYU and, he's still the love of my life. Like marriage, like if I wasn't coaching on LGBTQ, I would totally do marriage because I am a huge marriage fan. I think it's amazing. And I think it's the best work. So for, I got my business degree, but it pretty much was the mom for many years. And then my son came out, it's been 10 years now. So he was 15. And usually, as with most kids who are LGBTQ, there's a lot of emotional pain that goes along with that, depression, anxiety. And we were feeling a lot of emotional pain as a family. There was a lot that those were hard years, and they didn't get easier until we did therapy. And then I found coaching and had a coach who really helped me with my belief system and like how to manage my faith and support my son, and to really just create healthy relationships in our family. Like the fun thing is, like, I tell my girls, I'm like, you're so lucky. Like, we did all this work with Nick because I'm such a better mom, like, so that's kind of how I found coaching, because it was so impactful to me. And then, like I said, I was going to go to like be the marriage coach because I love that, but that was not the Lord's plan. He just kept pushing me the other way. And I was like, oh, it's just, there's a lot of pain there and everything. But I have been coaching LGBTQ moms for, I guess, almost 2 years now. And oh my gosh, it's the biggest privilege, Heidi. These moms I love so much. If you get blessed with an LGBTQ child, literally, I have not met a mom who is not a superstar mom. Like, so to me, it's been such a privilege of going through the experience myself, having it change me, and then getting, all the education to do it for other people. And I love it. It's such a privilege. It's a sacred space to be in, for sure.
So could you share with us, like, what were some of the either belief transitions or emotional transitions you had to go through as your son was coming out to you? Did you have any idea that he might be LGBTQ? Maybe share with us a little of your path of that changing.
Yeah, like he was going through like a lot of turmoil, I guess I would call that. And so I was like going to the temple a lot to try to get inspiration. And I went one week, and like the Lord kind of said to me, like, this is what you're dealing with. So I came home, told my husband, I'm like, I think this is what we're dealing with. And he's like, oh, okay. And so then we had a plan, like, where I took Nick on a date. We went to lunch and went to a museum. And then I asked him, and so he didn't come out to me. I guess I kind of forced him to come out, which I really don't recommend, because that could go turmoil. But in our situation, it was really good, because he just started crying. Like, they always, like, if your child is LGBTQ, they build up this fear of what you're going to do once they find out, because they have so much shame about it. And he literally thought he would be kicked out, which is just funny, because that's just not our culture at all. But he's read so many stories about kids being kicked out so they're building up the worst case scenario. So just know that as a mom, like, your child has so much fear around that moment. And I did a lot well in that moment. What I did not do well is I was like, okay, fine, like, totally great. But then I was like, okay, but if there's this website in our church called Voices of Hope, where like people are gay, but then kind of change themselves out being gay. And this was like 80, oh gosh, no, this would have been like early 2000, like 2012 or something. And so I had like this belief, like, oh, he could choose to not be gay. And so I was like, okay, well, watch this website, Nick, and like see all these other stories. And that did a little bit of damage. And so the belief system it's kind of like, either something's wrong with your child or something was wrong with my parenting because I caused this. Okay. Like, your children, like, what did you do wrong, or what are they doing wrong? And so a lot of belief system is like, oh, it's a phase, or it was their friends, or they were exposed to porn or something like that you're trying to look for a cause. That's kind of the belief system. And you quickly find out that that's false belief, like, this is how your child was created. This is who they are. I've never met an LGBTQ child who's choosing this. This is how they feel. And this is just part of their journey here on earth. And so switching from trying to, like, switching from, our life would be easier if they weren't gay. Like, that's kind of like your belief system.
Oh, okay. That's good for even other moms to hear, because I bet that they have like that little thought kind of underneath a lot of other thoughts. So that's good for you to kind of bring it out and normalize. Yes, okay.
And don't feel shame about it. Most moms and dads feel this way. Like, there's so much shame, because you want to support your child, but you had this vision of how your child's life was going to look like. And if you don't deal with that grief, it will come back to bite you. So many of my clients, like, in the beginning, they're like, we're all in, we want to be the best parents, but then they don't deal with really their grief around it of like getting used to this new, and it comes back later on where like almost resentment, because like they're so supportive of the child, but then the child starts making decisions that they don't agree with. And they're like, but no, we've been supportive from the part, like you should not be doing these things. And I haven't met an LGBTQ child who doesn't have a large amount of pain, Heidi, really, even when their parents are in. There's so much like pain and shame and like trying to just reconcile that they're still worth. And because of that, there is going to be some self-medication of it, right? You're right. Like our child went through drugs for some point, you know, and other children just are super angry. And so sometimes the child isn't easy to live with, right? Because they have to deal with that. And so you really just empowering the mom and the dad to like accept reality, stop fighting with reality, and to like take care of themselves, of like, they need to get the help. Because my suggestion is like, okay, say your child comes out to you, you know, in that moment, you know, nothing but love. Like that's my recommendation.
Okay, yeah, let's like kind of stop there. Let's like dig in a little bit more, because I think because that potentially could be a very emotionally charged situation. Let's like kind of stop and then give us some tools. What in that moment, what could some moms be doing? Either some thoughts to be going through their head. What kind of questions could they be asking? Like, let's dig into that a little bit more.
Yes, okay, for your child, just be like, okay, like, tell me more. Tell me about it. Like, when did you start feeling this way? Just ask them questions, but not hounding them with the questions, but just like, okay, like just act like they just told you that they bought a pair of jeans. If you could be that unemotional about it, that is the best case. Okay. But you're not inside feeling that way. Okay. Inside, you're probably freaking out. And so you need to find a space to process that. And this is the hard one, because a lot of times, either the child hasn't come out or you and the family are not ready to be outed for. So you need to find like a coach or somebody like a friend that is a safe space for you to talk about like, this is hard. I'm in pain. What does this look like? Because you need to process that, because if you don't, it's going to show up in your relationship with your child. So realize like your pain is real and valid, but you can't process it with your child. What you have to, with your child, you have to love and support. And what that looks like is ask questions, don't assume, and have them kind of dictate how it's going to go. Like, well, are you ready to tell people? Because if you say things like, let's not tell anybody, that child then feels like, I am shameful. They don't want to know about
something wrong with me. I should
something
feel
wrong
shame.
with me. They're embarrassed about it. So we're living in more of like letting the child dictate how this goes, even though that could be really hard as a parent. But that's the message it sends the child is, we love you. We're not ashamed of you. Like, what do you need at that moment? And I would say to the child, what do you need at that moment? Because usually they do need a therapist and they need somebody to process that. They can't process everything with you. So getting them help, but also getting you help is essential, bar none. And sometimes you and your husband are going to look at it differently. And so really the thought process is like, he's doing it. My husband's doing it perfectly for him. I'm doing it perfectly for me. My child's doing it perfectly for them. And like looking at each one, like each one of you are going to have like a coming out and come to it very differently, and letting that, like creating those belief systems around like, my coming out and my child's coming out, my husband's coming out, it's going to be different. And that's totally fine. Okay.
Okay, that's awesome. What about so I see a lot in talking about confidence is that, well, we have this false belief that like, if we're confident in something, that there's a right way, kind of quote, right way. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, actually, I'm guessing all moms, we love our children. We don't want to ever do anything the wrong way, right? That's something I look at with that thought with tons and tons of subjects, not just sexuality.
Right.
So tell me how you then worked through yourself, because and part of the danger is that we think if we do it wrong, that we've then hurt them, or that we shouldn't do things the wrong way. Tell us how you realize, okay, I had him watch these videos, that it wasn't helpful. Like, how do you then, for yourself, kind of give yourself that grace of like, hey, I'm learning this. Like, talk a little bit about how that. I'm guessing that there isn't kind of a right way. So
no, the right way is being authentic and vulnerable. And that means like at some point in the conversation I had with Nick is like, that was probably really stupid, huh? Like what message did like to
Oh,
be fine admitting your mistakes and like especially if you're dealing with a pronoun situation, which is really tricky, or transgender, which we're seeing more and more of, like saying to your child, listen, I get that's where you want to be. I'm going to work on it and do the best I can. Like even like saying to the child, and you're going to LGBTQ kids are they give their parents so much grace. Like they really do. They come to the point where like I've known this for a long time. I know this is new to you. So your child will probably give you more grace than you're giving yourself and your thinking. And so really you thinking this is hard for me and that's okay. And I think the best tool that I do with my clients is the ampersand, meaning like say like your child's dating and he's over the house and with his boyfriend and they're holding hands and you feeling like this is completely uncomfortable. Like this makes me uncomfortable. And I love that my child is like, has a person like having that. You could get really good at feeling two emotions, Heidi, where you're like,
okay. That's
this
good.
is uncomfortable, but I'm learning to love, like, I'm happy for them. Or like, he's just like me. He wants somebody to feel be loved and finding that common ground. Because there is no, especially if you're religious, like, and you know, in the LDS religion, like there's like this booklet called, you know, Strength for Youth, that we really glean a lot of parenting of how they date and how, you know, they wear clothes and stuff. Like there's a lot of advice. And when your child becomes LGBTQ in a faith tradition, there usually is not advice
There's
of
no
how to date.
handbook.
No, there's no LGBTQ Strength for the Youth handbook, even though there should be. And so like we just like how we figured those years out, because you're really parenting with Heavenly Father. I mean, even the bishop or stake president really cannot give you guidelines of how to do this. And so you really are figuring out how to do this with your Heavenly Father. And what we really landed on is every scenario that came up, we prayed about it. And then we said, okay, if this was a heterosexual question, like we'd let our daughters do this? Yes or no? And that was a great baseline for us to make some hard decisions. Like I remember one weekend we were driving an hour and a half away to go meet Nick's date, because we had a rule that we have to meet the date before they go on a date, because he had met this boy online that he wanted to go out with. And I'm like, we're the best parents because
We
this
are.
is crazy. So like giving yourself like that kind of that narrative of like, how are you thinking about yourself? Like, this is a hard space to be in. Are you taking care of yourself? Like, are you validating how you're showing up, how you're showing love, how you're advocating for your child? Because I guarantee you're doing really well and you're probably not giving yourself credit for it.
Oh, that is good. I find, yeah, in general, we need a lot more grace. I know, like you had said this a couple minutes ago, it's super important to get support, either support groups or like a friend. Let's say that somebody doesn't feel like they have that right away. What are some tips or places you could suggest? I'm guessing there might be some Facebook groups, or I don't know. How would you?
Yeah, Lift and Love, that on Instagram, that is a great place. We have a lot of information, and it's actually liftandlove.org too. All education. Like if you go on the education space, you could read articles. Some great books are Charlie Bird's Behind the Mask. Tom Christofferson's book is a really, really good one. Richard Osler's Listen, Learn, and Love is another good one. Ben Shalati, who works at BYU. All like my child, if I knew my child was LGBTQ, but we hadn't had a discussion yet, but or I was feeling it, the Spirit told me, or you read a text, or the best thing I would tell you to do is educate yourself, read stories, read about other people's journey. And that is going to arm you with, because you need more understanding, because it's so scary in the beginning because you don't have the understanding, and you need to like reading other people's stories. And like on liftandlove.org, we highlight a LGBTQ family each week, reading about other families, how they're doing it. That would be my best advice, is read, and read.
That is awesome. I'll put some links in the show notes too, and in the page with this of a bunch of those, of Lift and Love, your website and podcast and Instagram, and so that people can get that. What are some suggestions you would offer to people that are in a faith, LDS or any other faith, where there are some beliefs they've either been raised with? LGBTQ, anything is either sinful or such, and how to start incorporating some nuance into that, if that's something that the person's open to?
It's a great question, Heidi, because this is a huge pain point, especially if you're Christian. And this is probably why this space feels so painful, because you have this belief system that this is sinful and it's not going to end well. But what I have found of dealing with walking this walk with hundreds of families and myself is I feel like we all get a vehicle at some point that the Lord sends us to like hop in and to create a different faith, like relationship with him. Mm-hmm. And what happened to me is like, I had to like the questions that nobody, like my bishop, my stake president, he can't answer for. I've had to really go to the Lord and create a new relationship with the Lord. And I had to bring him things and continue. And some things aren't answered, but like what my, like not being afraid of your questions. Like I have so many moms who are like, I don't want to pray about it because I'm afraid the answer.
Oh, so I love that. Don't be afraid of your questions.
Don't be afraid of the questions. Like the Lord is not disappointed your child is gay. You work through your disappointment and you bring everything to the Lord, everything. And what I can't tell you over and over, every single mom, when they do the work, their faith, one of my moms said, it was like my heart was blown open and I was like, the Lord gave me a new heart and I have a new relationship with him and I am loving my child unconditionally. It's not transactional anymore. And I'm loving all the people. Like that's what happens is you love all humanity different. And so like, you know, your other moms will get a different vehicle, but the moms who have an LGBTQ child, it's a vehicle. I want you to view it as like, it's a vehicle to get a stronger faith. And then, you know, you do have like things said and talks and things that are happening that you're like, that doesn't seem right. What do I do with that? Mm-hmm. And everybody handles it differently. Some people get angry. Some people leave. Some people just ignore it or don't even like try to process it. And other people are like, oh, I believe whatever's from the pulpit and I'm going to, you know, then my child's wrong. And so part of this journey is giving grace to everybody, how they're doing it. Like giving, if I would say anything to our church community is really that LGBTQ family is praying and trying to figure it out for themselves and really kind of giving grace that how they're doing it is perfect for them. Like some parents are like, my kid can't go to seminary anymore. It's too painful. Like what's taught there. And that is hard for us because we want everybody to be involved and everybody to be there Sundays. And we have to have enough faith that the Lord's in it with them. And this even comes with your child. Like a lot of times your child wants to stop going to church and you know, your family goes to church and you want your child to go to church, and creating that safe place for your child to be honest with you, to tell them where you're at. Like that is a tricky dance that everybody's going to do differently, but doing it from a place of love and not fear for your child's salvation or fear for your family. Then when you're doing like making decisions out of love of how you're doing that as a family, then you are feeling aligned with Christ. And that's where your faith grows. Okay.
Oh, that is beautiful.
So I just, you know, my belief is it's all going to work out. I don't know the how, I don't know the when, but I know God's in this with us. And every single mom, Heidi, gets, you just love you. Like, don't worry about the minute details of how this is going to work. You just love and support your child. And, that question is what does that love look like? And that's different for every family.
And that's where real, like kind of being able to, and I'm guessing through that vehicle, like you just said, of building up this relationship with deity, like this, I can now start making the decisions. There isn't a handbook. But I'm going to start relying on myself. Like that strength that's a beautiful strength, I'm guessing for.
It's so beautiful. Like it's like you like yourself better. That's the result, because you feel more seen from Heavenly Father, this whole process what that gave to me. And so I'm okay, like people not agreeing with how I do it in my family, or I'm okay not agreeing with everything that's being said. But also like, I'm able to love the people who are saying things I don't agree with, because that's the trick, is like not getting angry and not feeling like they're doing it wrong, but like, oh, I'm being taught something differently. And I'm okay with that. Like, I believe in that, and kind of having that confidence of like, the Lord's got you, kind of like this, like in Rebecca, you know, we're studying this week, you know, the Rebecca and Isaac, where she gets this inspiration that Isaac doesn't even get. Right. And so she has to be like, no, this is how our family's supposed to go. And I see this a lot. Like moms are amazing. Like the Lord speaks to moms, and so really having confidence of like the inspiration you're getting is from the Lord, and the Lord loves your child, and he's going to tell you things of how to show up best for your child. And it's going to be different from what the Lord tells me how to show up for my child.
Mm-hmm. That is beautiful. The Lord speaks to moms. I love that. That is wonderful. Tell us a little bit about how you, the coaching you run. I know you have some groups. I know you work with people like one-on-one. Kind of talk about that and the
Yeah.
support people can get when they're ready for it, or how they could recommend someone to
So
you.
this space is, it's a need for privacy because everybody's different on their journey. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and like, they usually like you feel very as an LGBTQ mom, like none of my girlfriends have LGBTQ kids like in my community here. And so you feel kind of isolated where we are really community driven people. So you feel like nobody knows like my pain. Like they love my kids, but they don't really know. And so the need for like having other moms walk, it's a huge need. And so we've created this a lift and love community, coaching community. And this is where you could come, where it's completely private, where you could process your pain, where you can get the tools, how to handle because a lot of times, especially your child's going through a lot of identities, like they might start out as gay, but then they go to non-binary, and there's like, and the parents feel a little whiplash. And so getting those tools for your mindset and for the community, and in the community, what I offer is you could do private coaching with me. Like I have private spots every week. We also have group coaching. And then each week we do a workshop where we do the tools. And then once a month we do a big, and this is open to any mom, like they don't even have to be in the coaching community, where they lift and love mama support group. And it's completely private. A lot of the moms, the kids are not even out because they need a place. And so it is a very private place to be, to come get the help and come get the tools that you need, because how are these moms doing it with their faith? Like there's a lot of organizations out there that aren't very faith affirming. Like they're like, you do you, but my focus is really connecting families back to Christ and keeping you connected and keeping you connected as a family. And like I said, some people leave, some people don't, but I want to build up your confidence and you get to choose that and you don't feel like you have to leave.
Okay. That's awesome. I'll have links to all of that. As we end here, could you just share with us some of the beautiful blessings that you feel like you and your family have received because of your son being LGBTQ, and how it has changed you, and just the enormous, I just go back to that word, kind of blessings you feel like how it has been for you.
Which is so funny because Heidi, 10 years ago, I would have not said this is a blessing and I would have not been thankful. And, my husband is state president, and like he said to Nick just the other week, thank you for being in our family, because I am such a better leader because I've had you as a son, because I've been able to walk this journey with you. And so like, I think the biggest blessing for our family has been, we love on a whole nother level. Like it is like a deep, passionate love for each other that there's really nothing. My children really know this, that there's nothing they could do that's outside of our love, that they're important to us. Like we love the version of whatever they bring us. And we've learned all how to love unconditionally, which means like they don't have to do certain check marks for us to show up and love and support them. And whatever they are and whoever they are, we have learned to love. And the fruits for that, for John and I, especially for me, is I've learned to love myself in like unconditionally. And when you really learn to love yourself unconditionally and kind of love your crazy, I call it, like stop fighting your crazy, but like be all in for yourself. Like whatever the Lord sent you, like I have learned to embrace all of it, which is the best feeling. But then I have so much more capacity to love and enjoy life. And so I would have never, Heidi, a million years ever thought that this would have been what I needed, but this was exactly what I needed to become my best self. And so I'm forever thankful for my son that he chose me as mom, and I've gotten to raise him and walk this journey with him. And I'm not saying it's without pain. It's still with pain, but handling the pain, it's just, you handle it in a whole nother level of, you just have a still amazing life and amazing faith and amazing family. And the pain is just part of it.
Yeah. And you realize, nothing's gone wrong. This is all how it's supposed to be. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Jenny. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I will make sure I have links because I know there are lots of people out there that need to be blessed with everything you can give them.
And can I say one final thing that I
Yes,
just want?
yes. Keep on.
I know, like, I get this a lot. Like, this is a trend. There's so many kids coming out now. Why are they coming out? And I want to say, like, that's the wrong question to focus on. Like, there is a lot of kids coming out, and probably because we talk about more and it's more of a safe space to come out. We don't really know why, and we'll probably never know why. But whatever your child's presenting themselves, like, if you just think it's a phase, that the problem with that is you're not going to be parenting from your highest self, and you're not going to create that safe space for your child. So whatever your child's saying to you today, your job is to believe it. And now what? How do I want to show up? And my biggest advice is whatever crazy stuff's going on in your brain, which you're kind of be like freaking out in your brain, show up as calm as you can. And almost like, I gave this to you before where I said, it's like when you tell your child you can't date that person, and then all they want to do is date that person. They can't hang out with that friend. Like, if you do that if with their sexuality, how they're showing up, you're like, okay, this is just a phase. This will pass. It won't pass.
It won't pass. Right.
It won't pass. Right.
It's just an avoidance. Right.
Yes. Avoid it. So show up as calm as you can, which means get your help, because you're going to need the help. Get your help so you could show up calm and be very neutral about it. And so then your child will get what they need from you, and you will be so thankful. That is how you showed up in that moment, regardless how that moment ends. You want to be grateful and look back like, I love how I played the role of the mom or the dad in that moment. And so that's I just want to say that, because I'm getting that so much now.
Important. Calm and curious, I'm guessing.
Calm and curious. That's it. Perfect, Heidi. Calm and curious. And so whatever you need to get to be calm and curious, figure that out for yourself and get it done.
And realize that's your job. It's not the child's job.
Yes.
I'm hearing a lot in this of like, don't make the child carry do the emotional work that you need to do. It needs to be very separate. Do your work. Go get your support.
And you're going to need it. Don't pretend you don't need it. You're going to need it. So get your support.
Yeah.
And if you don't need it, you're not, if you don't get it, you're going to get it somewhere, like whether at the end or, and it took me like a year to get help. And I wish I had done it in the beginning, because I would have made less mistakes, but I've given myself grace to those mistakes.
Exactly. Yes. As we all need to. Yeah. Okay. That's good.
Thank you for having me. I love being on, and anybody having questions or want to talk, like, this is my passion.
And so you have that one support group. You said that is kind of open to anyone, and they can get that.
Yeah. And I'll send you the link for that. Right. And that's, we just send you a private Zoom link, because like
and can people come on anonymous? Can they keep their video off? Can they keep their name anonymous? Just kind of in case that would help someone show up the first time.
Right. We have, and we have allies just come too sometimes. They just want to know more information. And it's funny because most moms are like, I felt like for a couple of years, I needed to learn more, and then their child comes out. I just see that pattern over and over. So if you're feeling like
if you're
I need to learn
that
more,
prompting,
the Lord might be preparing you for something. And it might not be your child. It might be your leader or a niece or nephew, but just the Lord might be preparing yourself if you're feeling that prompting.
Yeah.
So know that.
So follow it. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay. Thank you so much. This has been amazing. Bye. If you would like personalized weekly private one-on-one coaching to break patterns, accept reality, and get unstuck, sign up for a consult call at HeidiBenjaminson.com. A confident mother is the greatest gift to her family, not a perfect mother. Our families want us to feel confident, anchored, and calm. I can help you uncover this version of yourself. Have a great week.